The door library within Mosaic has been completely rewritten in version 7. We're going to do a series of videos to kind of explain the new door library and how to go about setting it up and using it. The first video we're going to look at is just an overview of how the door library is set up and works. So within Mosaic, we're going to click Libraries and Doors, and this will launch the new door library. The first screen that you're going to come to is the thumbnail tab. This will display all of the doors that you currently have designed within your door library. You can sort these any way you choose by simply clicking on a door and using the sort buttons to move them into position. And this is the default door library that will come with it. The door library is now divided into tabs. So you have the traditional doors. You select those using the drop down menu. These are your traditional multi-piece doors. We also now have the ability to create miter frame doors, and you can define the profile of the miter molding that you're using. We can also create slab doors. If you're upgrading to version 7, your old door library will be imported and the doors will be segmented into the tabs as best we can. One thing to note, any MDF doors that you currently designed in the older version are going to be imported into the slab tab and not the routed MDF door tab. In the new door library, the routed category where you create your new MDF doors, you only need one piece of geometry, so one tool path, and the tool groups are then applied to those tool paths. You also have a tab for SketchUp doors if you're using any SketchUp doors in your jobs, and we have a couple of different areas where we actually set up the defaults for the doors. You have your door profiles, again a tabbed library here. The first is the thumbnail view, which again can be sorted. You have the ability to define the outside edge profile, the inside of the frame profile, as well as the panel profile. And each of these are selected in combination to create the overall profile of the door. Within miter frame, you're generating the entire frame member, or the profile of the entire frame member. So if we zoom in here, you can see the detail on the inside of that. This is also where you would add profiles. The default door library will come with a number of profiles preset that you can pick and choose and use. In addition to the profile library, we also have settings. This is another tabbed menu where you enter your typical sizes for your frame and panel settings. These can be modified per individual door. They can be modified per individual piece. This is just the defaults. You also have your profiles. This is where you actually select the profiles you're going to use. So on my traditional 5-piece or multi-piece doors, I'm going to set the outside default edge profile to be a particular profile. I'm going to select my inside of the frame profile for a certain look, and I have a default panel raiser that I normally use. For my routed doors, I'm going to choose to use a tool set, or I can just use the cutout tool, perhaps that I always want to rough cut my doors. So I'll go into my edge tool groups and I'll select the rough cut with the chamfer as my default. And then for my routed doors, I've got a particular tool set that I normally apply to create the profile of the panel itself. And again, by simply clicking select, it'll pull up my panel tool groups and I can select the one that is most common. This is where you designate your tool for the pockets, and also you determine how the pockets actually cut. Is it cut inside out, outside in, or we're going to cut clockwise or counterclockwise? There's two different options for getting the profile on the miter frame of the door. They can be done exactly the same as traditional doors. I can select an outside edge, an inside of the frame edge, and a panel. Or we can use a miter profile from the profile library and lock that profile to the door when we generate it in the miter tab. and simply select the panel profile that goes with that. A few other options to look at here. You'll notice within each of the different tabs you have options that are specific to that type of door. And you'll notice that the pricing has been enhanced. I can now use a combination of dollars per door, dollars per square foot, with markups, with minimums. So if I want to price a door as a minimum of 2 square feet, no matter what the actual size of the door is, then I have that ability. We can add the material cost, and you can also add the labor per door. Notice miter doors, the options may be slightly different. They're definitely different in slab doors and routed doors. Each of those you can also designate for the CNC machine to bore for hinges, to bore for pulls, to apply banding. One last area in the new door library to look at are your associated doors here at the bottom of the screen. Let's say, for example, we have a square raised panel door, but if that door is less than 12 inches wide, I don't want to make a square raised panel door, I want to make it a slab door. Or if the door is more than 24 inches wide, I want to replace the single panel door with a door that's split vertically. A minimum height of 12 inches, I want to use a slab door, or if it's greater than 36 inches, I want to split the panel horizontally. So you can have associated doors selected here, and then as you design the cabinet, if the door exceeds the limits, either minimum limit or maximum limit, Mosaic has the ability to go ahead and substitute the door for you automatically. One last area to look at is the properties. This is where we can add libraries, rename them, copy them, delete them, import them, and export them. And you can also select the library that you're currently working on. So that gives you a good overview of the door library. We're going to do a detailed video on each of the tabs and how to create and use those.